Peace, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and once again, we're coming to you from WBOK, where it is real talk for real time. And this is another broadcast of Class is in Session. So we thank you all for tuning in every Monday at 3 p.m. And today we have several guests who blessed us with their presence and are going to share with us their experiences, what they're witnessing there in the city of Houston, Texas. As you know, our brothers and sisters there have been impacted by Hurricane Harvey. So on the phone with us today, we have our Sister Christina Muhammad, and she is the regional coordinator for the 10,000 Fearless First Responders, and she's going to talk more about that as we get into the show. And we also have our brother Durce Muhammad. He's the student FOI captain of Muhammad Mosque number 64 in Houston. Throughout this interview, you may hear him say Big Houston. So he's talking about, oh, man, look at that. I apologize. Austin, Texas. See how you corrected me, right, y'all? So y'all know where Austin, Texas is. And we also have on the show with us our sister Sadiyah Karriem. And she's an attorney, but also she is, the executive of the nonprofit Queendom Come, sister?
Yeah, executive director. Yes, sir. Executive
director of Queendom Come Incorporated. And they're doing a lot of great work in the city of Houston, Texas, and they were doing work there prior to Hurricane Harvey. So before we get into the actual discussion, so you who are listening in can hear about the work that they're doing and even how you can help them if it's on your heart to do so. I just want to go over some stats about Hurricane Harvey from an article that I read on the internet. It says that Hurricane Harvey, it was a Category 4 storm, a hurricane, and it hit Texas on August the 25th, 2017. Really, we're talking about 12 years after Hurricane Katrina, and it says $180 billion in damages, second only to Katrina, and that was at the time of this article. Some people are saying that it may exceed the amount of damages that Katrina caused. And the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, it is expected that he will need $125 billion in federal relief to begin to start addressing the damages. And according to the news, an estimated of 13 million people were impacted, and that goes from the state of Texas, the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And as of September the 9th, 2017, 70 people have lost their lives due to Hurricane Harvey, and 1/3 of Houston was under water. So we want to talk about the impact of the storm, what is going on in the relief efforts by those we have on the phone here. And we'll start with our sister, who's the executive director of Queendom Come, being that she is a resident of Houston, Texas. So, Sister Sadiyah, so tell us, what has your experiences been like, and what are you seeing there on the ground?
Yes, sir. So I was in a Tuesday before the storm. The Tuesday before the storm, I was in Grand Rapids dealing with the case in Grand Rapids, and I got a text message. People were telling me that, your trip, we were supposed to go on a cruise. My family and I were supposed to go on a cruise the day that the hurricane hit. So, your cruise is going to be canceled. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a hurricane on the way. So I said, I've been here before. I've been down this road before because I got married in the middle of a hurricane. So I said, okay, we need to prepare. Now, prior to 9 years ago, Hurricane Ike, we prepared our survival kit, Sister Christina, if you can hear me, and we were prepared. But I didn't know that when the hurricane came, it wasn't about my family being prepared for something that may come. It's about being prepared to help serve the people after the storm had left. And it was the recovery and the relief that I really had to prepare for. And so, as Allah would have it, He spared us, He saved us from the damage of the storms, the wind. And then the next day I started seeing the people and their devastation and how they lost their homes. And, I saw one sister who lost her life and her child was floating on top of her body, struggling for life, a family of 6 was swept into the water. I mean, it was nonstop coverage here in Houston. There was no regular scheduled program. The regular scheduled program was the news. And I started having survivor's remorse. And in having survivor's remorse, you stranded in your home because you can't leave because of the flood. You want to do something. And so the only thing that I could do was use my Twitter fingers, my Facebook fingers. We're a nonprofit organization, and we service girls and children, women and children. And so I immediately updated our website to start receiving financial donations so that we can start a distribution center. Next morning I wake up and Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad from Mosque 45, and he's the Southwest Regional Minister of Nation of Islam, he texted me, he said, let's collaborate and let's do this together. So, God was answering prayers. As soon as the water receded, we immediately set up the distribution center and started going into the complexes that were affected and the areas, and just to see the devastation of the people. They were still in the daze, not realizing exactly what happened and what the recovery was going to look like. And so I'm just talking about the first 2 days. We're in day 11 now in recovery mode and relief mode. And some of the stuff that we see is and I'll talk further into the conversation, but devastating. These people have to start from scratch, and a lot of people don't know where the resources are going to come from. We're expecting the government to come rescue us, but we know that's not going to happen if we look at what happened with Katrina. And so with Queendom Come and organizations like Queendom Come, Mosque 45, South Park Coalition, the Christina's group, Brother Durce's group, coming together so that we can hit these small pockets that are not being served by the government. So it's been devastating, and the people who are serving, I can say for myself, we've been nonstop around the clock, and I have caretakers fatigue right now, but I can't stop because there's so many people who have nothing. So that's where we are right now, Brother Willie.
Wow, and that's something you said, caretakers fatigue, and that's very, very important. We thank you for the work that you are doing and for what you shared. So we'll go to our sister Christina Muhammad, also from Big Austin. And I mentioned her as she's the regional coordinator for the 10,000 Fearless. So, Sister Christina, can you share with us just what is the 10,000 Fearless first responders? How did that come about?
Praise be to Allah. First of all, brother, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to be on this wonderful show. When we think about 10,000 Fearless, we say first responders. This was something that our dear brother, the regional minister, Brother Sharif, he had came up with the 10,000 Fearless. The minister was talking about the 10,000 Fearless. So from the minister, I should say, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Sharif, which is the regional minister in Atlanta, he had started working on, and he had the 10,000 Fearless house and 10,000 Fearless vehicles. So at a point in time, my husband and I, Brother Reginald Muhammad, we went up to Atlanta, and we wanted to see what it is that he was actually doing. So I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And the minister said, we need 10,000 Fearless. And right away, I raised my hand, and I said, well, I am one of the 10,000 Fearless. I fear no one but Allah. So from that point on, the works that we started doing here in Austin, we were doing works. We were going in. It started with Department of Inner City Emergency Response, when we would go in and we would start training on believers doing insert and communication and, get your survival bags. And, first upon doing this, it depends on how well and how you believe that America's about to fall. So you have to be one studied individual. So from all those things that we put together, I knew that America was about to fall, and I knew it was going to be bigger, and I knew there was going to be something and someone who our people had to fall on and had to get information and had to guide. And because I was a believer, and I know my husband was a believer, we started going in and we started training. So as we started training with insert, we started learning how to do search and rescue. We started learning how that we have to have communication, and start learning why you have a survival bag, why you need a go bag, what kind of things do you need in your car. So this is how we started that. My husband and I were saying, well, we need to be called the 10,000 Fearless First Responders, because we are first responders. First responders is something that we love to do. You have to be a first responder. You have to get there. So if you're there, it's more than just a medically thing, but if you're there at a situation where people are in need of help. There's been times when we were just walking, doing our 55.5-mile walk, Brother Minister, and we had someone drop dead right in our face. So who's going to be there to revive this person that's dead on the scene? So these are things that, we do and we love to do based upon what's coming in the future. So it's not an attractive thing to do because it's something that may not be at hand, but it's something that you have to prepare for. So we just started going out and started teaching and training people what it is that we do when a disaster takes place, because that's the whole entire key, when it takes place and what needs to be done. So that's how we actually came about, my dear brother. The inspiration was from our dear beloved, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it was from our the minister, Brother Sharif, as far as the works that he's doing.
And what's beautiful about that is that the 10,000 Fearless, the aspect of the 10,000 Fearless that you are a part of, this also comes out of the initiative of the 10-10-15, the 20th anniversary of the historic Million Man March. So I'm happy to see that there are those such as yourself and others who have continued to follow up on what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has asked and he said he desired to see, which is it wasn't a moment, it was a actual movement. Now, one thing about disasters, you see it can bring out the worst in people, but it also can bring out the best in people. And I've been watching a lot of the social media posts about the work that each of you all are doing. And I've seen our brother Durce. I've seen you there in Houston. I know you're doing work in Austin, but I didn't know that also you have been assisting the actual mayor of the city of Harvey, Illinois, right? And
yes, sir.
He has actually, I don't know how many hours that is. I know from the city of New Orleans, it's like a 14-hour drive just to Chicago alone. So can you tell us about how that all came about and what you all are doing?
Again, thank you, Brother Willie, for allowing us to be on class and session, and thank you for consistently helping the community and being in the community and keeping them informed of things that otherwise they cannot get it anywhere else but on this fantastic radio show and this fantastic radio station. One of the things that has taken place with these disasters, and I call it the Christmas or the holiday effect. Around Christmas time, people become very generous, people become very giving, people become very humanitarian, if you will, but it lasts for that particular season, and then everybody kind of goes back into their lives and then wait until the next Christmas. Well, Christmas kind of came early, meaning that that type of thought, that type of desire to help those who are less fortunate, and in this case, who have been put into a situation that they had no control over, and in some cases lives lost, and those lives that were not lost, devastated because of all the things that they have accumulated during their life, is gone. And so from not only here in the city of Houston, and I'm proud to say that one of the first cities to respond in Texas to help in this particular effort was Austin, Texas. But from around the country, people saw and wanted to help those who were less fortunate. So the city of Harvey, Illinois, only thought it was apropos that their name of Harvey and the hurricane that was Harvey, that they wanted to have that name not go down in a negative light, and they wanted to help and support. So the mayor of Harvey, Brother Eric Kellogg, which is Harvey is approximately 4 minutes from the Chicago line. So it's if you say Harvey, some people who are actually from Harvey may say Chicago because that's how close they are, but they're their own municipality. He saw what was going on and immediately put together a fundraiser and for donations and monetary help to support the brothers and sisters here in Houston. And in doing so, they accumulated 3 18-wheelers full of supplies, from water to hygiene products to baby products, to all those things that would help someone who has lost everything. And in this 11-hour drive from Harvey to Houston, they had a press conference. They got on a plane, and flew in him and his staff, including his police chief, his city attorney, his insurance person, and even an alderman. And they came in ready to receive the truck of those three 18-wheelers so that they could distribute it throughout Houston. And when they got here and hit the ground, their main concern was that they wanted to give directly to those groups and organizations who were dealing directly with the people, such as Muhammad's Mosque 45, such as Queendom Come, such as Greenhouse Church, Restoration Life Church. These persons that are on the ground that doesn't have a bunch of bureaucracy, that when the products hit, they can go directly to the thing, directly to the people without having to running up the flagpole. So when Harvey came in, of course, being from Illinois, they needed a person, I guess, to help them. And I was fortunate enough and privileged enough to kind of help them and to assist them to make sure that their products and their donations got to the proper people, and then as well as for them to make an assessment to prepare them that if something hits in their city, how that they could be able to handle it. So there was the city government was very accommodating. They had an opportunity to meet with the Mayor, Sylvester Turner, who, and as a quick sidebar, that this event will catapult him into the history of American cities and American administrators to handle the worst natural disaster that hit the city, that handled it the best. And it's going to be the model and pilot in the future of how to do things. And Brother Willie, you were there during Katrina, and it was very unfortunate, and there were a lot of mistakes made. But from those mistakes, other cities have learned, and Houston, I think, has taken advantage of what was done that could have been done better in New Orleans. They did it right here in Houston, and it's even going to become better. Unfortunately, that when these calamities hit, if people come and learn, in which the mayor and his staff did, that they'll be better prepared. So they got to meet with the mayor, they got to meet with the police chief, they got an opportunity to go to the facility that's supposed to hold 5,000, but it held 10,000, but there was no problems. People were fed, people were triaged in terms of medical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the outgrowth of this particular situation, that other cities, as in conclusion, that other cities will be better prepared as they saw how Houston ran things, and then they'll be able to go back to their cities and to be able to prepare accordingly. And they'll be able to prepare for their particular situation. They're not going to get a hurricane there, but they're going to have a snow blizzard because the snow is very much there. Or they may have tornado. But either way it goes, persons will be ill-affected, but the principle of how to take care of them is the same.
Wow. Thank you for those comments. We're getting close to our first break, but before we go to our first break, I want to go back to our sister Sadiyah, Karriem. And you mentioned, I think the word you said was responders fatigue. I don't know if I got that right, but I know that's a result of the work that you're doing and the people that you all are helping. And can you share with the listening audience about, how you all have specifically helped some of the people and some of the testimonies that you are hearing and what you're seeing?
Yes, sir. So, we, with the help of Austin and the 10,000 first responders, Brother Durce, his team, they brought a tremendous amount of supplies to Houston, to our distribution center, and we've had people from New Orleans who've done community boot camps where they brought a truck down to Beaumont. They were bringing it to Houston, but we said we don't want you to bypass Beaumont or Port Arthur to people who need it there. So we met Queendom Come and Mosque 45 and the 10,000 Fearless met the people who donated from New Orleans in Beaumont. We've had tremendous amount of people who come through the distribution center. We've had the Sakat Charity Foundation who brought over $25,000 worth of supplies from Chicago. We have a sister who brought a big truck from Raleigh as soon as the hurricane hit. I mean, we've had a tremendous amount of people to respond and bring donations and gifts. But what we found is that the donations was just sitting in the distribution center. And so what we did is we packed our cars, we rented a U-Haul, and we went into the communities. We call it you know how you have pop-up stores? We had pop-up donation centers. And
wow.
So we went into the, Heritage apartment complexes. We went into the neighborhoods and brought truck loads full of supplies, cleaning supplies. Neighborhood, you go on the streets and their whole house is on the curb because it's totally destroyed and there's nothing that they can do, So we go in with our masks and our gloves and we give out masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, and we help pull up carpet and knock out drywall. So, the tremendous effort and the unity that we've had with the other organizations, there's no shortage of work, let me say that. But when we out there, when we tell them that, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he sent us to see about them. And so all these organizations collectively coming together, speaking the same words, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. And so, as I said, we're fatigued, but the love and the energy of the people and the need is what's driving us. And we say love anticipates needs. And so, we want to encourage those who are listening on the phone to continue to donate. 4443 Old Spanish Trail. Drop off your cleaning supplies, your baby products, your feminine products. Not so much clothes, but what we've been finding is that no one really wants clothes. There's a tremendous amount of people dumping clothes, but we need, non-perishable food items, water products. So 4443 Old Spanish Trail. If you can't bring the supplies, then you can make a financial donation, and we'll purchase what you tell us to purchase. myqueendomcome.org /Harvey, MyQueendomCome.org /Harvey. So there's a tremendous need. Volunteers. In the past 10 days, we've serviced over 1,000 families, and we've had about 60 volunteers per day to come out and help us with the recovery and relief effort. So we thank the people, and we thank Houston.
And that's amazing, and to hear what you all are doing, and we pray that that Allah continues to bless each and every one of you all. So we're coming up on our first break. And to our listeners, once again, you're listening to Class is in Session, and this is your brother Willie Muhammad. And our guest today, we have our sister Christina Muhammad of the 10,000 Fearless First Responders. She's the regional coordinator. And we have Brother Durce Muhammad, the student FOI captain of Muhammad Mosque number 64 there in Austin, Texas. Also, we refer to it as Big Austin. And we have our sister Sadiyah Karriem of Queendom Incorporated. And we'll be back on the other side of the break to talk to more of them about what they're doing, and also speak more about how those of you who all are listening can actually help them. So tune in, and this is your brother Willie Muhammad. Class is in session. Peace. Peace, family. We're back, and this is your brother Willie Muhammad, and this is Class is in Session, and we're going to continue with our interview talking about the work that is not being talked about, but the work that is actually being done in the city of Houston, in Beaumont, and other surrounding areas that were impacted by Hurricane Harvey. And before the first break, you heard our sister Sadiyah Karriem talk about the work that they are doing in combination with other organizations, which is beautiful. And now I want to go to our sister Christina, because I was informed about how you all helped to transport, I think it was definitely, I don't know if it was 80 or 50 families from to one location to another location where they could get assistance. Can you share more about that experience with our listening audience?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So part of having the 10,000 Fearless First Responder is not just to bring in supplies to the people. It's not just to go in there and clean up. So this is actually a unity of the community movement that we're actually utilizing. So when we talk about disaster preparedness, we talk about that from the sense of from A to Z. So if we know there is a disaster and things are taking place, so our job is to try to find out what is going on, what has happened, what is needed, and from the need standpoint, how do we get the people from the misery state, how to get them and take them to somewhere that they can be safe and they can have the things that they're needing. So what we did is utilizing and preparing for the supplies there in Austin. I work with several other communities, and we've come together. So we did go in and organize the supplies. I did have meetings with others that are there in the city of Austin, and we've talked about needing shelter. Where can we put our people? When you are displaced, I can only just think in my mind that will be something terrible. That would be a terrible thing to lose everything, and that's what we are witnessing today. We're witnessing our brothers and sisters that have lost everything. So in the midst of that conversation for the shelter, I did get an opportunity. The team and I, as we went to Houston and did what we did there, we traveled up to Port Arthur. Now, as we traveled up to Port Arthur, I went there because our dear beloved regional minister, Brother Abdul Halim, had said that the minister was very concerned about the believers and the people that were in Port Arthur and Beaumont. So, of course, we had to go in there. Part of being a first responder, you have to put the boots on the ground first. You got to go in there and dig the reports. So we did just that. We went into the city of Port Arthur, and our findings there, brother, was very traumatic. It was very traumatic. On my way going to Port Arthur, I had gotten a call from one of the activists that was there in Austin, and she was very alarmed, and her thing was, can you get here, please, hurry. So I'm thinking, what's going on, what's happening? So as we said, she said, hurry, get here. She was detained by 4 white men that were actually there. And what she was doing is she was a part of our Z project, was to make sure that everyone there had places to go, that there were shelters lined up for people to be able to lay their heads down in the midst of the drastic change that was taking place. So there were 4 white men that were there in the quote-unquote shelter that we were about to go to, and they were detaining her because she was there giving another avenue as far as where the people can go for their shelter. So as I got in there, as far as being a first responder, when it comes to Red Cross and when it comes to FEMA, you have entryways that you can't get into. There are certain places, and, when they say you cannot come in, you can't come in except for your credentials. So we came in with our credentials as a 10,000 Fearless First Responder, and what we saw, brother, it was not a shelter, it was a FEMA camp. I didn't care what nobody said. So how our people and what they were actually the living arrangements for our people were very devastating to me. We went into the location, and first thing I noticed it was like martial law. They had the military soldiers all wrapped around the place. And then from the military soldier, there were police officers. There were gated fences that were there. And then you walk into the location, and then you have somebody tailored at the door. And all I did is went in and flashed my badge because somebody has to be able to get through. As we went in to inspect the location, the place smelled like urine. It smelled like feces. It was very dirty. It was nasty. And I just used a statement that my husband said. He said that when he walked in there, the people appeared dead. So what we did as far as the team, I wanted to find out why the lady was detained. Why did they detain her? And I wanted to find out why, all the monies that you all have, why does this place look and smell like this? And not knowing, my dear brother, that the night before I had gotten a call from the shelter asking, can we bring foods down, because there was something with the shelter. They had ran out of food. They didn't have food for the people. Now, we're talking about Red Cross. We're talking about FEMA. We're talking about people with the resources, people that have the money. So when we got there, it was absolutely horrible. So immediately as they went ahead and let the sister go. They said she was no longer detained anymore. And then what she came down for, we will make sure that they can still complete the process. So they gave the okay for the team to go ahead and ask everybody if this is where they want to stay, or we had an alternative place for them. We can actually take them to a better location where they can have a better arrangement in their life. We did that. The team came in. We went to everybody that was there, and whoever was ready to leave that nasty place, we got them out. And then, yes, there was a shelter. There is a shelter that is set up in the city of Austin, Texas, because there were overwhelmment in dealing with Port Arthur and Beaumont. Of course, we looked on the social media, and we saw that Port Arthur, Beaumont, their shelter, the first one, was actually, they were flooded out. So then you had Houston, there were people that were being turned away. So then what Austin did is set up a restoration center where the people, the evacuees, can actually come up, and then we can actually give them what they need. Not only put them in just the shelters, but we actually put them in hotels, which was given by different resources in the city of Austin. So this was a means of a working of a city. Austin, Texas came together. We came together, and whatever you're good at, this is what you do, and whatever you need help with, this is where somebody else will come in and compensate as to the help that you need. So we did, and we went in and got the people and brought them down here, and as of today, the people are still in hotels down here in Austin that's being paid by the resources that we have until their FEMA compensation takes place. But I just wanted to say that, brother, because it's very, very important. We can give the people help, but if we're not going to, I'm right there with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm right there with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when they say we have to separate completely. We've got to find a way to separate, because these people do not care about our people. And this is part of the reason why I went in to do the insert training, where I went in to become a first responder, because I do know and I do understand that there are certain places that if you don't have your credentials, you don't have access to. And those places where we don't have access to, those are the places where our people are being held.
Wow.
Praise be to Allah.
That's good. Thank you. And we're going to our brother Durce. I know just from my experience of being around you, Brother Durce, you have a way with people. You have a way of showing compassion and understanding what people are going through. And when I saw the reports about what was taking place in Houston, I thought about the numerous people who have evacuated from the city of New Orleans and found residence in Houston, and I was only imagining how devastating and traumatizing and how re-stimulated that many of them probably were after going through that. Again, have you come into contact with any people who were from New Orleans and they are now impacted by Harvey? And what do you, in addition to that, what do you say when you are out there dealing with people who have lost everything? What have you been sharing with them to help them to just pick themselves up and to not just fall into just this sense of despair?
Right. That's an excellent question, brother. Thank you. One of the things that we have found is quite a few of the brothers and sisters who were displaced from Katrina, and now 12 years later, because it happened in 2000, so 12 years later, they may have not gone back to New Orleans, but they're now here in Houston and made Houston their home. One of the things that we have found is that a large core of those persons who were not completely, because everyone was affected, but not completely affected by Harvey, those brothers and sisters from New Orleans and that was affected by Katrina were one of the main ones on the front line, showing their gratitude, but more importantly, showing from personal experience that you may have had these particular problems, but you can come back, look at me. And I talked to a couple of them that were experienced the Katrina situation, but it was therapeutic for them from the standpoint of what they experienced, how they had lost everything. Now they're back on their feet, they're thriving, and now to see someone in the situation that they were in 12 years ago, it was therapeutic, and it was helpful for them now to be able to give back and to help because someone helped them. And so now they had an opportunity to be able to give the same thing, the same love, the same hug, the same perhaps, you can stay with me until this, that, and the other, because someone did it to them, and they were very appreciative of that opportunity to do that. So it was therapeutic. Some did get re-stimulated, but again, the majority was really excited in a good way about the opportunity to not only give back, but to be able to share their story with those who was ill affected just as they were, but to say, now look at me, you can do the same thing, so we can do this thing together. Let me hold your hand. Let me do whatever we need to do to get better. Let me also say this, Brother Willie, and that is what we have found, just as we talked about learning from the past experiences, and I want to say publicly on this show and hope people will continue to listen to it and kind of go over it, because there's some excellent information given out by Sister Christina and by the warrior lawyer, Sister Sadiyah, and that is the new precedent, the new paradigm. And I want to be clear that it was actually started here in Houston and started by the Nation of Islam, and that is the adage that if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad will go to the mountain. What we are doing and what we are setting up, because these particular drop-off points, these particular locations which people can get supplies, many times you can't get to them. People have, especially here in Houston, there are over 1 million cars that were lost in the Houston proper and Houston surrounding areas. 1 million. So even if you are in need and there are all these different locations that have the things for you, you can't even get to them. But what has been started and what we have been doing for over a week now is what I call the good humor effect, is that, as Sister Sadiyah said, we would fill the U-Haul truck up. We will have some pickup trucks even following them and going down these streets that are devastated and blow the horn. And as people come out, we give to them. They don't have to come to us. We come to them. And I'm telling you and I'm sharing with you that it was started because you will see other organizations and groups doing this, because it's really in the 21st century, as these things become more and more devastating, that is probably the most effective and best way to get all these donated supplies and all these charitable givings to the people that need it. And you're also seeing a shift, Brother Willie, and you're going to hear it here first, that people are tired and fed up with the Red Cross. They're tired and fed up with FEMA. They're tired and fed up with the usual suspects, the United Way, where people are giving all these donations for money and the charitable things, and they're not, and the people are seeing that the people are not receiving it. So the grassroots organizations that are actually doing the work with no resources, how come Sister Christina can't have the same budget as FEMA does, and Sister Christina with no budget can rescue 50 people, and FEMA with a multi-billion-dollar budget still trying to figure out why they're running out of food? That doesn't make sense. But people are waking up to that, and so you are finding now a paradigm shift. And going to your final question, this compassion that we're talking about is more than just now being able to provide, okay, you got water, you got your diapers, you got your cleaning supplies, but Wi-Fi is down. And you were telling me that in order for me to get some government assistance, I need to go online and do it, but I don't have no Wi-Fi, I don't have no computer, my phone doesn't work. How am I going to do that? See, they didn't even think through the fact of how now are you going to get to me, and they don't have enough workers to do it. So it's going to take, again, the grassroots organizations to be thinking forward like that, and for us to go out and service our people. So, I want to publicly state that when you start seeing these other organizations and groups now start going to the people, it was started right here as a response to Harvey, and started right here by the Nation of Islam, in the forward thinking of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the creative thinking of the brothers and sisters who see, by virtue of what our people need, that we're going to respond accordingly.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we have maybe about 9 minutes left in the show, and want to go to our Sister Sadiyah with Queendom Come. I saw a flyer that you all recently put out, and I thought it was so proactive and is right on time, especially what I've known after Hurricane Katrina, where you all were asking for counselors. I know it was counselors, anybody that can help people deal with trauma. And one of the things I noticed after Hurricane Katrina in reports that I would read, and even personally, they talk about how when people go through a traumatic experience, that sometimes the effect of that experience, sometimes it may not manifest until maybe 5 or even 10 years later when people go through that. And so I know, in addition to giving them the supplies and all of the other stuff that they need, that it is also important to help to give them what they need to address their mental and their spiritual well-being. So can you talk about the next part of the response or the relief that you all are preparing with Queendom Come?
Absolutely. So, right now we're trying to deal with the immediate needs of the people. They need food, they need toiletries, those type of items. But, as what we did in recovery for Katrina, you have to have case management. There's going to be people who still need things. They're going to need a job. They're going to need mental health support. And it may not mean going to a psychologist. It may mean just talking to somebody, getting it out, having a good cry.
Right.
So right now we're trying to secure funds. I know the city of Houston has $56 million that they raised. As a nonprofit organization, we're going to be going to every imaginable organization that has money for Hurricane Harvey relief and try to get as much as we can so that we can set up we have the area to set it up in. Is just set up shop so that we can give case management. We can help them find housing. We can help them, if they need food support or any other type of child care support, any mental health support, that we'll be able to be set up to help them in that aspect. Now, let me say, Queendom Come, we came together to help the women and the children. And so a lot of people don't know that the women and the children, the single women and children, are not being serviced. And as we're going into communities, their community may not have been hit by water, but because so many people are taking the resources away from them in which they were used to getting, now that they don't have those resources, so we're filling in the gap. And this recovery, people are still recovering from Katrina. And so we know that if this is supposed to be it's equal or more than what Katrina was as far as the devastation, then we know that we're going to be doing this for a long period of time. So I tell people anytime, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. As Brother Durce talked about, the cycle, the Christmas cycle, the giving cycle. We know that Irma is taking place right now on the East Coast in Florida, and I looked at some weather predictions. Jose is going to be in New York in the East Coast area sometime September 20th, 19th, September 20th. So, United States is being ravaged by storm after storm after storm. And so people are getting fatigued from giving. People are getting fatigued from caring. But, the love is greater than the fear and the hate. And so we have to continue, and we got to be smart about it. So there is long-term recovery for the people of Harvey. And, again, if you want to donate your services, we've had a lot of people who stepped up and said, I'll donate my mental health services, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever capacity you can serve in, please contact me at 832-623-2323, or you can contact us through our website, myqueendomcome.org, myqueendomcome.org. Thank you, Brother Willie.
Thank you, and I'll make sure I'll put the actual web address and flyers on my page so people can also be connected. And we are right at about 5 more minutes. So, Sister Christina, you mentioned something. You talked about the need and the benefit of actually going to get the CERT training. So could you briefly just share some words to encourage people who may have not, natural disaster hasn't visited them yet, or again, the importance of doing that? And then Brother Durce will come to you, and you can, with any closing words, any other way that people can assist and help you all in your efforts.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Most definitely. Now, if there hadn't been a time before, this is definitely the time. And the more we turn on the TV and we watch and we see the disasters that are coming, and disasters are in the four corners of America. So we don't do anything else, family, friends and family that are out there. Go and get the training for yourself and your family. You should be able to master. You should be able to know those things. I just found out for myself, my house, I'm here in Austin, Texas, but I live on a fault line. So that when you talk about, I don't care how old a fault line is, to me, a fault line is a fault line. So we talk about earthquakes. You got to know those things that may be in your vicinity, in your area, that you have to prepare for. We know flood. So you got to be able to find those things. You got to know what type of bag, what to have in your go bag. Do you have a go bag? Do you have your survival kit at home? It's more than just water, brothers and sisters. It is a medical. What do we look like as far as medicine? Do I have people that are on medication? I have to make sure that I have extra medication in my household for if something was to happen, then I'll be able to do what it is that I have to do. This is very important, and we can no longer wait anymore as to what's going on. We have to look and see and be prepared. So please definitely go in, look for your inserts in your cities. You can definitely reach out to any of us. We'll definitely be a part to go in and help and to teach and to certify you all in when it comes to insert, when it comes to disasters. We have a formal online education that's getting ready to take place where you'll be able to go online and take the courses across the nation so you can have that for yourself and actually to be certified in those ham radios, different things like that. So those things are coming. Let us just be ready and be found going in and researching and taking care of our own. Thank you, Brother Willie. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, too. And so, Brother Durce, what comes to your mind, man? And even, as our sister mentioned, how Florida is already touched down in the Florida Keys, Hurricane Irma, and we're still in the midst of hurricane season, ending in November the 30th. So, what can you share?
I want the brothers and sisters on that are listening to us, Brother Willie, and that will continue listening to us because we want them to listen to the playback and share with their friends because your show has to be spread nationwide, not just in New Orleans, but nationwide, brother. But I want to just close with this, and that is that we have to take what we do every day and what we drive in, and many of us drive or have written in the greatest what-if scenario there is, and that is a automobile. And we have to use that same mentality in our homes. So the person who designed and the persons who designed the automobile, you're looking at the greatest what-if situation there is. So when they design the automobile, they say, what if it rains? Okay, we need some windshield wipers. What if we have to drive in the dark? Okay, we need to put some lights on it. What if the person is tall? Okay, we got to make some seat adjustments. Well, what if they have to transport something? Oh, we'll make a trunk. See, everything that they didn't just put the car together in an engine and 4 tires. What if we get a flat tire? Oh, we're going to make a spare. See, the thinking that went through that has put that automobile in preparation for almost anything that comes up. What if I want to listen to some music? Okay, we'll put a radio on here. And now you have a product called an automobile that has taken into so many considerations in regards to this what if that you can't miss it. They got cars in there now that they have a situation that if you can't talk, if you press a button, the person will come on, the OnStar will tell you where you are, get help to you and everything else. And that's the way we have to approach now being prepared for these upcoming things. Sit down in our homes with our families and go through some what ifs. What if we're here 3 days? Well, how much water is that? What if Johnny runs out of asthma medicine? How much do we have to have on things? How much food do we generally eat? And so these what ifs, we need to prepare ourselves because not only are these things coming more and more and more, they're going to get to the point now where if we're prepared and we weather them, it will not only make us stronger, but it'll put us in the position to be able to reap the reward. And the reward is us being able to be confident and faithful in the fact that we can now do for ourselves what others have been doing for us, but we will start applying the God-given talents, thinking, and all those attributes that we all have, but now it just has to come out. So I challenge everyone to go and sit down with their family, go through these what-ifs, and start being prepared because it's only going to intensify. But once we weather it and once we come through it, it's going to be a greater day on the other side. And I'll close with because after difficulty comes ease.
And so, brothers and sisters, we thank you all for taking out of your time and taking away even from the time of the relief efforts that you all are doing and from your families to make this interview so those here in New Orleans and those who listen online can hear from you all. And I pray that those who are listening, that you were inspired and you want to either contribute something financially, if you want to go there and give of your time, if you are over a church, a college, an organization that wants to volunteer, Here you have 3 people on the phone who are actually out there making sure, and who have the desire, not that they're not motivated by getting in front of a camera to do an interview, but they're actually making sure that the people are serviced and they're given what they need. So I'm going to place the website and the flyers and all of the information that will help you all who are listening to get in contact with them if you see fit, but I hope that you do. And once again, thank you, brothers and sisters, and we'll now be coming to a close of classes in session. And for our listeners, make sure you tune in on next Monday at 3 p.m., and this is WBOK, where it is real time for real talk. Peace.